Hey everyone, it's SKIESTI'S. At the beginning of Season 3, Alec Dawson, the hero design lead, sat down to discuss the patch notes with Seagull, and they said some interesting things about Mercy we're gonna talk about. For how many changes Mercy had, they really didn't say much, which was pretty disappointing. If you don't know what changes Mercy got, I'd recommend checking out the video I made about it. So what are the Overwatch devs looking to accomplish with Mercy? Starting off with Mercy's movement, going into Overwatch 2, her mobility became easier to access and use, which I would agree with, but taking into consideration that there remains to be a low skill floor and high skill ceiling with what can be done with it. The devs were keeping an eye on her mobility and nerfing it because it was undoubtedly a buff compared to Overwatch 1. There wasn't really an explanation given on the backward Guardian Angel nerf, just that if you want to do a backward GA at the same speed as before, you have to turn 180 degrees for the Guardian Angel and then turn back. I don't mind this change because I'm PC, but lots of console Mercy players have said that this sucks for them. The devs want Mercy to be more committable. They didn't necessarily specify if that meant Mercy being more committed to a fight and not being able to escape, or for other players committing on Mercy to be able to kill her. They did say though that they wanted Mercy to be easier to kill in the right situations, and that if she gets caught by someone, she has to wait longer to get out, so take that as you will. The other goal for Mercy was to add more layers to Mercy's kit, which is something I really appreciate and think is a lot better for her. For the staff changes, they said that Mercy has the same healing time from 0 to full overall as she did before, and that Mercy now has more impact depending on the health of her teammates, and that she's much better when you're healing a low health hero. For the new passive, they said that Mercy was double stacking the support role passive, and that they always planned on changing that. Ending off their initial explanation for her changes, they gave the reassurance that they'll keep a close eye on where Mercy ends up. After the dev finished, Seagull responded saying that his thoughts were really all over the place with this one, and I don't blame him. I think all of ours were. To him, it's weird. When you're playing Mercy, the fantasy is to be the slippery, can't catch me hero. I mean, like, she's the moth, you know? Seeing her be less slippery and more tanky is an interesting direction. He's curious to see how easy it is to chase Mercy down, and not just because of the increased cooldown, but also because he's not sure how much the passive will do. When going after Mercy, it's likely that you're not shooting anyone else because there's an incentive not to, meaning that she most likely won't have the opportunity to be actively healing someone, and thus be unable to activate her new passive. And all of that will make her easier to catch. He also added that Mercy players will be likely to damage boost more often because they don't want to heal until they're under half health, so they can trigger the enhanced healing or keep some of that healing for themselves if they get targeted later. Before they moved on completely, the dev had one more response. He didn't really say much other than that those things could definitely happen and that Mercy is going to be tankier and that players would be able to catch her better. There wasn't anything from him about damage boost, just that in terms of healing, it'll be more interesting because of the layers and to see if she's actually going to be the triage healer they want. I've showed my thoughts a lot about the changes already, so I'm gonna focus more on what the devs said specifically. They've missed the mark with some of the Mercy changes and thoughts surrounding her. Making her able to tank more is not what any Mercy player wants. Mercy players enjoy her movement and being slippery, not clunky and tanky. Obviously, there are some exceptions, not every Mercy player, but you get my point. On the flip side, I think the idea of having layers for Mercy's kit is great. She now has a form of burst heal, which she was lacking in comparison to the other supports, and Valkyrie is a more defensive ultimate, which gives more flexibility in its usage. When it comes to her passive, I think their intentions with giving her a more unique passive was interesting, but maybe not entirely thought through because of how unreliable it can be in some situations, which is really frustrating. Also, I was genuinely surprised that nothing was said about damage boost or resurrection. Even if the changes were made internally before those discussions came about, surely by the time of filming the dev chat, they would have been aware of them. I've heard a lot of suggestions in terms of Mercy and the current changes. The worry Mercy players should currently have is Mercy's new healing mechanic being nerfed without any sort of readjustments to Guardian Angel or the passive. After playing the Mercy changes for over a week and a half now, I've adapted, but I still don't enjoy the Guardian Angel cooldown. The changes to Mercy have gotten rid of, in my opinion, the more fun things you can do with Mercy, which are stalling and Valkyrie with the constant regeneration and movement, and being able to peel for yourself if you're good enough with her movement, which means having less reliance on your team or your other support. I understand that for non-Mercy players, that can be unfun to play against, but for Mercy, that's where you felt like you had the most individual contribution if you had the skill to do it. You had a way to control and turn around fights based off of you and not your team. Keep in mind, not every Mercy player was able to do this. For the hundreds of movement clips that you've seen on Twitter or other various social medias, there's about thousands more Mercy players that aren't doing that. Good Mercy players should be hard to kill, and they should be rewarded for that. Not every Mercy player was able to stay alive well. I mean, for example, there was even Mercy players in GM and Top 500 that had deaths in the high 5s or low 6s per 10 minutes. It's not that Mercy isn't dying, like Alec said, it's that some are just very good at not dying. For further evidence, in Season 2, before the changes, I had 3.15 deaths per 10. And this season, at least according to Overbuff because my profile is still bugged, it is 3.41 deaths per 10. Yes, it's higher than before, but very minimally. The ones that were able to stay alive got really good with her new movement and peeling for themselves. It feels like instead of being rewarded for being skilled in what you can achieve with Mercy's movement and being able to just, like, show that skill expression, you're now being punished for it instead, or being unable to do it. With the changes, it means that Mercy's individual contribution mainly comes from damage boosting, which has been true for years now, but also keeping your teammates alive with her new healing changes. This playstyle feels much less interactive for Mercy, and I don't know about you, there's things that I can enjoy about it, but it's just not as fun and not as satisfying, and doesn't make you feel as accomplished as you did when you pulled off those incredible stalls that really, like, won a game. If they really wanted to make Mercy work in this kind of playstyle, I think changes that they could make for it is putting Guardian Angel from 2.5 seconds to 1.8 seconds. This is still a higher cooldown than she had originally, and makes it so that Mercy's kit synergy still works. I personally think 1.8 seconds is the highest you can go since res cast time is 1.75 seconds, but 2 seconds would still be workable. Or if they're determined to keep the 2.5 seconds, adjust the beam linger to 2.3 seconds, and give Mercy a Guardian Angel refresh upon getting a successful res. Constant, uninterrupted regeneration added back in Valkyrie. Not everyone stacks up during Valkyrie or needs healing, which makes it hard to accomplish things you previously could with her ultimate because of the regeneration. Her healing normally stays at 45 HP per second. Her healing under half health goes from 67.5 HP per second to maybe 60 HP per second, and healing in Valkyrie under half health from 90 HP per second to, I don't know, 75 HP per second or 80 HP per second. I'm not entirely sure on those values, but I really like the idea of Mercy's healing having layers and having a form of burst healing to assist allies when critical. This would make it so Valkyrie still feels like a defensive ultimate, which is great by the way, I really enjoy that for her, but also make it so allies aren't completely unkillable. That's it from me for now. I'd love to know what you think about how the devs view Mercy and what they want for her, and maybe also about my proposed changes for her. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Let's go! Good shit. GG, boys. I don't know how he did it, but
They didn't have mercy, bro. They didn't have mercy.
Don't you get me started. I freak out.
Bro, that character needs to be banned. Like, straight up. Dude, that character...